After a week's break, we are back on Apex Racing TV to bring you coverage of round 6 of the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. Five meetings and 9 races have already been completed this season, with 5 different drivers taking overall wins, many of which their first in Apex Racing League history. Whilst Aaron Powell and Michael Neumeyer lead the championship, it was reigning champion Nicholas Laubisch who dominated in Silverstone, taking pole, the race 1 win, and the highest score of anyone across the meeting. Chris van der Nesso surged into the lead of the amateur championship meanwhile, as Dara Adriansson suffered a pointless round 5 of the season. We head to Hockenheim for the first time in Apex Racing League GT history tonight. This German circuit has been hosting World Motorsports events for the last 90 years, and whilst it's made its iRacing debut 5 months ago, it has had a very positive welcome to the sim racing world. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Andy Thompson joins me in the commentary box. Mark Trenter and Sam Kumar are working in the background to deliver this terrific broadcast on Apex Racing TV, and a huge thanks to Andy Taylor, Christian Steenberg and Colin Weatherholt for producing our stunning graphics and video content for this series. And also thanks to Wave Italy, the title sponsor for the Apex Racing League GT Championship, for supporting the series and offering some super prizes for the top runners in the Pro and AM Drivers Championships. Wave Italy aims to offer the best experience in driver simulation by conveying the thrill of a real race to casual racers and professionals of sim racing. They offer extremely realistic peripherals that can be used for private events and personal use, and their driver tuition based in Verona, Italy is a fantastic way to improve your sim racing and real racing life performance. Andy, we visit Hockenheim for this round of the season, for round 6 of the season. I think this circuit has been very popular since its made its debut. I was a little bit skeptical of it, honestly, but I think this circuit really does have all the strengths of a Grand Prix circuit without some of the weaknesses that we sometimes see come along with that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for letting me on the broadcast, Sam, and welcome to our viewers. Yeah, Hockenheim, a really good addition to the iRacing portfolio. Very well received within the iRacing community. It's one of these tracks that is a story of two halves, really. You've got the front half, which is fast, long straights, and you've got the more complex stadium section that we'll go into in a minute in the tracks guide there, Sam.
Yeah, there's a decent variety of corners. Can be some problems off the race starts, but these guys getting into the middle part of the season could well be able to cope with all that as we get some shots of this circuit, this track tour.
Yeah, okay, so Hockenheim ring, 4.57 kilometers long, first corner, the Nord curve, fast right-hander. The guys need to be aware of obviously getting off tracks on the left-hand side, so really quick, getting a lot of track coming down into the tight section of 2, 3 and 4. 2, you've got to get your braking zone spot on to get the best exit you can for 3 and 4, which will then take you down the very long Parabolica straight, which will be the prime overtaking spot for this track. What you need to be aware of coming down here is the braking zone going into the hairpin. This is going to be where we're going to probably see a lot of action on track. A lot of cars trying to dive up the inside, but it's also where cars are going to get it wrong and go out wide. But there's a massive runoff area in turn 6 that won't hinder the guys, but will affect their lap times. Coming down into turn 7, which is a fast right-hander, coming down into the Mercedes turn of turn 8, which is a really slow left-hander turn that they need to get right again to set themselves up for turn 10, which is it's a medium right-hander corner that can catch people out, because you've got a sausage curve on the left-hand side that if you hit that, it's going to affect your live off there. Coming down into the Mobile 1 turn 11, which is a tight right-hander corner, and you've got to be aware of the runoff area and not taking too much as we go into the world-renowned Sax Turn 12, which is a banked left-hand corner, slightly banked, coming down into turn 13 and 14 before we head into coming out of the stadium section, going into the start-finish down turn 15 and 16. So this track was built in 1932 and is about 12 kilometers long. In 1938, the circuit dramatically shortened from 12 kilometers down to just over 7.5 and introduced the S-curve corner that we all know and loved. The stadium section that we see was constructed in 1965, but the big redesign for the current layout of the track was in 2002, which saw, as we can see there in turn two, we cut off all the forest section and introduced the parabolica. So I'm expecting some really good, some tight racing here today, Sam, at the Hockenheim ring, and really looking forward to this.
Absolutely, and as that chat guide maybe showed, I think there's going to be a mixture of cars which are going to be strong around this place as well, Andy. I mean, we kind of had the same thing at Silverstone, where, you know, powerful cars and, you know, good handling cars could go very strongly. In the end, it was Nicolas Labish who really dominated in his Porsche, but then, of course, in the amateurs, Chris van der Nesse in his BMW did very well. I feel like this is kind of going to be the same tonight, because you have got that long parabolica straight, as you mentioned before, where you can get that power down, but through the stadium section, it's a lot of medium speed, slow speed corners for the cars to negotiate.
Yeah, definitely. As Dane said in Silverstone, I think he put it right. And I think this track is a very similar layout to Silverstone, in that you've got the really fast front end of the circuit with the long parabolica and the long straights after the Nord curve and after the hairpin. But then it comes into the stadium section where, as you say, Sam, you got some tight turns, real technical parts of the track that the car needs a bit of downforce. So it'd be interesting to see how the drivers have gone today, whether they've gone with a low downforce to get the maximum grips down the parabolica, or they're going to go with a bit more downforce to get them through into the stadium section. But I would expect them to choose low downforce, Sam, due to the overtaking opportunities down the straights.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, mentioning the overtaking, because we've got a reverse grid for tonight, 21 cars, which is a bit bigger than kind of what we're used to, and so you're going to need to be quick down the straights in order to defend if you benefit from the reverse grid, or of course if you're starting further back, you are going to be needing to make lots of overtakes if that is possible. We've already covered 5 rounds of this championship, and it's currently Ampal who has been able to kind of take the advantage so far. He took the race win at Watkins Glen. I was skeptical of whether he was going to be able to keep that form up for the rest of the season, but he has maintained that championship lead over Michael Neumeyer. Nicolas Labish seems to be back. He came from a mile back last season to take the title, and he was dominant at Silverstone, by far the most dominant meeting we've seen so far this season, and so he is really on the comeback trail, is the German. Bing Glenn has just been getting consistent results, has the young driver up in 4th position. James Crouch has won a race in 5th. Danny Lee, not the season that he would have hoped, especially when he was leading at Watkins Glen in round 1 of the season. It's kind of gone negatively for him since. He's in 6th with Van der Nesse, top of the amateur drivers, indicated by that 2.32, all the way up there in 7th position overall. And I think if we show the amateur scores, you can see kind of the gap that Van der Nesse has been able to build over Dar Adjensons, who didn't score any points last time out, and so he's now got a 60-point advantage, does the BMW driver. Chris Prescott bringing himself back into championship contention, and still a few others as well, Mckenzie and Bingham and Collins as well, all with a chance of the title. Andy, not sure, of course you raced against Nicolas last season, and I think it's pretty easy to tell he's an exceptionally quick driver. When he is locked in, he is very tricky to beat, and that last round of the championship was really quite a setter to put down to the other drivers, because yeah, if he can keep that form up, then he's going to be very strong to the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw from last season, obviously, he dominated it towards the end. What has been interesting, Sam, in this season is we've had an influx of new and old drivers, and it's good to see the new drivers up there mixing it. But certainly, as for the first 5 rounds or 4 rounds, Laubich didn't really have it his own way, and has now really got a fight on his hands to try and retain his championship.
Yeah, it's yeah, going to be a very interesting one if he can keep it up. I'm actually just looking at the at the standings. I'm not sure if Nicholas is actually around tonight. So I was bigging him up, saying how strong he was, but he is not around. We've already had qualifying set, and so you can go through your grid as the drivers line up just outside of the stadium section of the track. And I believe for the first time this season, it's Tobias Ogrenik who's up on pole position, the German driver, ahead of Tom Brand. pretty sure that's Brown's best ever qualifying, and one of Indy Autosport's best ever qualifying as well in this Apex Racing League GT Championship. Then it's Danny Lee up in third. Callum Gartson in his first ever Apex Racing League event lines up in fourth. Then it's Matty Chambers making it a very strong qualifying for the British drivers. Thomas Avanzini lines up in sixth. Aaron Powell and Jensen Adjinson's round out the top 8. Then it's Drew Becker top of the amateur drivers. Mark Hutchinson in 10th. Darrell Adjinsons and Steve Burke line up in 11th and 12th positions. And then behind that, it's Christian Engelhardt, Chris Van Der Nesse, championship leader, a member in the amateurs, Kevin Kittelman, Chris Prescott, Tom Collins, John Chester, Stephen Broomfield, Tom Bingham, David Gowrie, Colin Mckenzie, Simon Kress in his first ever race in Apex Racing League, David Bush, Angel Pedrero, James Coulibaly, Jack Tingy, Dominic Linden, James Crouch, Emil Vinbe, and Nicholas Matthews. A really interesting grid for us tonight because we've got no Laubish. We have got Powell only in 7th position though, Andy. And of course, second place in the championship also not around here either. So we've got a fair amount of drivers, honestly, for this round of the championship. But a lot of the top drivers who we've come to expect to win the races are absent tonight.
Yeah, well, obviously it's going to pay into Aaron Powell's hand if he can do well in these 2 races and just try to extend that lead in the Pro Championship. But what it will do is it'll mix up the Pro Championship as well, Sam, and it'll make it interesting and bring the scores, which are quite big at the moment in the Championship, down to the front runners. So it certainly makes it interesting into sort of future rounds coming into this. But it's interesting. Tobias, obviously at his home circuit here in Germany, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on because he was quite a way out in front in that qualifying. I think the nearest one was 0.3 going down to 0.8 into 5th place. So I'm expecting big things from Tobias today.
Yeah, this is a golden opportunity, and obviously if he can get a couple of good results, maybe we could be talking about him being a championship contender. We're going to be halfway through the season after tonight. We've got a 25-minute race and a 40-minute race to get done first. Here comes the first 25 race 1. And we are away for the first time at Hockenheim in the Apex Racing League GT Championship. And Okunic with an excellent start. Lee trying to get past Branagh. He's got a very good line. Heading into turn 1, and should be able to force his way through 2 by 2 with a very narrow turn 1. And most of the drivers have done a good job. Chester destined to pick up a slowdown, going so wide heading into the first corner of the lap. Okunic leads by nearly a second already, sprinting away from the others as Brown has been able to get back past Lee. And there's also a slide there for Gartson, who's gone off the circuit, and also Brown and Powell dropping down the order. So a couple of problems for a couple of the top drivers there, and that's great news for the top 4.
Yeah, definitely a great start there from Tobias. He actually caught it was in 2nd place now, but a big hit coming down into the hairpin there from Tom Collins. Big damage there. So it's 2 performance lead cars off the track. Chris Van Der Nesse getting hit, going down into the hairpin. So yeah, as I regain my composure, Tom Brown obviously got caught napping there off the start of the line there, Sam. Lost a lot of time, but shot big off there coming round into the stadium section there. Luckily he didn't get picked up by any cars there coming around. I think it was Jack Tinley, it wasn't Jack. Matt Collins coming down, and that's easily done on these opening sections coming into the stadium section. A lot of your drivers will probably be on low downforce there, Sam, and this is where it's going to hurt them, and you need to be careful. So I think the first lap of the time split, we've got another car off. It's all happening on this first lap as Darren Hutchinson comes off on the hairpin coming down into the stadium section there. Sebastian Vettel in the 2018 Grand Prix, that's where he came off when it got a little bit wet and affected his championship actually. So.
A costly mistake there, and it could be a costly mistake for Adjinsons as well, because with the poor start for Van Der Nesse's championship rival, there's an opportunity to get some points back on him, but it's actually Van Der Nesse who is ahead of him after the first lap, so yeah, that could be quite an error for him later on. So we've got Furious Battle all the way down the field, quite a bit of a spread already. He's had 16 seconds off the lead, and Aaron Powell with a jovial start, championship leader. His 2 closest championship drivers not around tonight, so he's going to extend the lead either way. But that he really could have done with a better result in this race 1. Just going to be damage limitation here on in, as Chester's having an excellent race. Gartson in his first ever race just came past Miguel Pedrero. Gartson was one of the drivers who spun coming out on turn 4 on the opening lap. He did, of course, drivers behind, but he's managed to keep his company. So too is Tom Brown, who starts on the front of the grid, and he is down into 14. That's Engelhardt, and Brown is getting across the rest. Great start for Chris in his first ever Apex Racing League event. He was up 11 places on that one. He just drops back a couple of them on that position. Wow, that's a bold move there from Brown.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's got a lot of room to try and catch up. So the big movers and shakers in these first couple of rounds. So Aaron Powell down 14 places, so a big loss for him. Darren Atchison down 16 places from the start grid, so a big spin for himself, which is obviously not good for himself. Biggest movers probably Chris Prescott going up 7 places, and Steve Broomfield, who's currently in 9th and 10th. So they're the big movers in the field so far, Sam. So a lot happening in these open couple of races, which is to be expected in a 25-minute race. Everybody's putting everything on the line, as we see. Chris Vandenesi going very wide into turn 1 there. Luckily, you don't get to slow down unless you go off past the blue and white barriers on the left hand, or the car is on the left hand side, and you'll see a lot of drivers going out wide trying to maximise the speed coming around turn 1 there, because you can make up a lot of time going past the Norris curve coming down into turn 2 as we go down here with Emil Wimbo down the parabolic, as we see the slipstream effect with 3 wide coming into the hairpin now, with Wimbo on the inside getting that move done, cutting off the line and making up 3 places there. So that's the effect of the slipstream going down that parabolic now.
Incredible straight line speed there, as you say, the slipstream effect giving him a lot of momentum, and managing to surge his way up. Crouch up to 24th there. That car still looks very clean actually, albeit he has already come into the pits as Crouch, so that is apologies, he starts with James Crouch, but yeah, in 24th position, 22 seconds off the lead. Prescott is just having some issues, but in fact Burke has had a big problem for Team Lizard. He was having a decent race, I think, was Steve Burke, but he has fallen down the order, and there he is, around a fairly auspicious part of the track, honestly. Usually expecting someone to spin around those couple of corners, but that's where Burke has gone off. To make sure that he's within the top 21, because that is the reverse grid later on. So after a 3 laps of this race, it's Hockenheim next door, leading the way, Danny Lee up in 2nd place, and Chambers in 3rd, Avanzini and Jensen Adjunson rounding out the top 5. And in the amateurs, it is Drew Becker who is leading the way on his return to this race, has unfortunately missed many of the rounds. Chris Prescott for Team Lizard is up in 2nd position, and John Chester, Christian Engelhardt and Simon Crest round out the top 5 in the amateur standings, as Garton gets very close to the back of Chester, who benefits from all the incidents in front of him on that one, but he's at that now, starting to drop a few of them back.
Yeah, as we just saw there on the replay, Sam, we had Tom Brown's incident. It was coming out of turn 2 into turn 3. Obviously got on the power a bit too soon, coming around into turn 4, and unfortunately lost the car coming up into the parabolica. That's probably the worst place to lose it on this track, because you've got the whole straight of the parabolica. So not only are you losing the time for spinning it, you're losing all the lost speed that you would have gained going out of turn 2 through turn 3 and 4 down the start of parabolica. So hence why he's moved quite a lot down the order, but he's finding his way back now. He's currently in 10th place, so that was his spin at the start of the race. But as you can see, Tobias he's out front, Sam, at the moment. His fastest lap is 4/10 faster than Lee's in 2nd place. As we see a big turn, big incident there. Tom Bingham coming around onto the last corner for the start-finish straight. So I didn't quite see what happened there, Sam. I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, there's a couple of extra corners down the pit straight there, but man, that was okay. So there was a couple of cars already off the penultimate corner on the outside, and then a couple more decided to have a bit of that as well. And there was a problem, it seems. So I'm not sure what happened there, as Becker's just moved ahead on Adjunson's jumping phenomenally well. We know how quick he is. He took some turn up to half the rounds due to one reason or another, and so he's really done well. Easily top of the amateurs, as James Crouch is going to lose out to Kevin Kitson, I think. Although, oh no, he's got Emil Binbo the wrong way round, right in front of him. No chance of avoiding that one. Binbo makes the beeline to the outside of the circuit. Crouch's race just goes from bad to worse.
Yes, his nicely looking car is a little bit damaged now. So as we look here at the replay of Tom Bingham from Performance Link Esports coming around the last corner, I wonder if it's a fact of the sheep effect, just following the car in front of you as he goes around. Oh, the car on the right. Oh, was a car rejoin. Oh no, a poor rejoin there as we saw, and unfortunately picked up Tom Bingham coming out of the start finish straight. So it was very unfortunate for Tom there coming down. So that's massively affected his race, and he is obviously currently down in 25th places. So he needs to make up them 4 places to hopefully get on the reverse grid.
Yeah, that was, when you say that was a bad rejoin, that was the worst rejoin, I think. That was, yeah, not pretty. I'm sure the stewards will have a look at that one post-race and dish out any pit lane starts which they feel are necessary or penalty points as well. But yeah, as long as you're within that top 21, then you should be all right to cover the first grid. As we see Matt Chambers 6/10 of a second ahead of Thomas Amazito, just about holding on to that one. Chester is continuing to be under pressure from Garton and Engelhardt, but he's kind of holding on at the moment, as Garton, I think, has just had a problem down at the hairpin. So, yeah, that is the debutant, just dropping a couple of positions. And outside the top 10 now for that one, as Chambers with his VR headset trying to concentrate on the road ahead, but at the same time probably occasionally glancing over to his mirrors as well.
Yeah, looking very cool there in his rig. I wonder if he's got his big fan on. Obviously, the weather's cooled down a little bit over in the UK, so he might not need it. But he's still there in his shorts and t-shirt, keeping very cool and calm. Because obviously, as everyone knows, when you're racing in these sort of races, you do perspire a little bit coming in there. As we're watching Colin Mckenzie in 16th place in the round, so he is currently the 5th place am on track as Aaron Powell's in front of me. He's not making up a lot of ground here, is Aaron Powell. Maybe he's more looking towards the reverse grid, Sam, and trying to make up for the mistake that caused him to spin at the front of this one. So maybe that's like playing on his mind, but certainly not making up the places like Tom Brown is at the moment, who's currently in P9. So seems to be the big one, the big loser out of the first lap seems to be Aaron Powell. But that, like you say, for the championship will make it mix it up a little bit. But as you said, Sam, his nearest rivals are not here today, so it'll just be extending that lead anyway, even if he ends in 15, and it'll put him in a good place for the feature race for race 2.
Well, he seems to really be struggling down the straights, because the Porsche's not known for being quick down the straights. Meanwhile, the C8 is usually very strong, and he's gone way too deep there as well. And Powell, so really struggling, and yeah, that damage that he's picked up, I think is affecting him a bit out there currently. So yeah, not a good race at the moment for Powell. But as you say, you know, that'll be a strong result, a strong starting place for race 2, and yeah, we'll have a clean car and everything, so that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Earlier on this lap, Tom Brown moved ahead of Stephen Broomfield. So Broomfield with an astonishing start. He was up 11 places, just up 10 places now. But the Ferrari veteran, really, of the series, the Centurion Racing driver, who's been around really since season 1 of the Apex Racing League GT Championship, still up there in 9th position. He's now got Chris Prescott actually on his tail, but Brown making it an Indy Autosport 6, 7, 8 at the moment. So not too shabby points coming their way at this rate. Broomfield though dropping back considerably, and I think Prescott might have a chance heading into the turn 6 hairpin this time round.
Yeah, great recovery drive here from Tom Brown. There's a bit of a gap now between himself and 7th place Adrian Sun in front of him. But considering where he was on that first lap, and obviously getting that spin out of turn 3 going into turn 4, he's done exceptionally well to get back into the top 10, and obviously just picking off drivers as well. You know, unfortunately, Aaron Powell's not having the same sort of luck, and it seems to be there's a big damage on his car, or there must be some sort of damage on his car, which is obviously hindering his chances. He seems to be going back rather than up, as we watched battle here with Engelhardt and Tristan behind him. So Yeah, no, it's certainly heating up in this 25-minute race here, Sam. A lot of incidents to talk over and a lot of position changes. But one position that hasn't changed is Tobias Ogrenig in first place. He's driving this like a pro. Currently 2.9, nearly 3 seconds ahead of Lee in second place, who's no slouch himself. But it looks like Tobias has got the making of this course. And from the start and the excellent start he got, that he's not looking back at the moment.
Yeah, it's great that he's kept his motivation levels up as Ogrenek, because he's had a very tricky season. I remember Mosport in particular was a dreadful round of the season for him, and you know, it's hasn't necessarily been able to show this pace, or at least kind of this luck, honestly, that you do need in order to win races in these Apex Racing League series. And but he's got everything going his way at the moment. Halfway through race one, it is looking like another race victory for him at the moment. In fact, it might be his first race victory of the season, now 3 seconds ahead of Danny Lee out on circuit. Not too many changes in those top places. Still Drew Becker leading the way in the amateur class, and he is 8 seconds clear of Stephen Broomfield in second place in the amateurs. What I should remind you, of course, is that the points are given out for their overall finish. So the amateurs want to beat the pros, and the pros want to beat the amateurs. So if Becker can get some cars between himself and the next amateur driver, he gets rewarded for that. And in fact, a 6th place for an amateur driver is an incredibly impressive performance. We have seen, you know, Drew Becker won a race as an amateur last season. We've seen various other drivers, Dean Powell, for example, get podiums as amateurs. But a 6th place with this competitive a field is really quite rare for an amateur to do. So this would be a nice points haul for him. And you can see he's not too far behind Mark Hutchinson, and actually was half a second faster that last lap. In fact, Avanzini was a second slower than Becker on that last lap. So these guys from 3rd down to, or at least 4th down to 6th, just starting to close in on one another a bit.
Yeah, definitely. You saw there on his webcam the sheer concentration of keeping that car in a straight line, making sure you keep it on the tarmac and getting it as fast as you can. And it's paying off for him at the moment. Obviously, 6th place, great position for an AM to be mixing it heavily with the pro drivers, and he's got a bit of a gap over Adrian's son behind him, as we see Tom Bingham here with Crest just fighting it out with the BMWs. The BMWs, I thought they would fare a lot better than what they currently are. I know there's been a few incidents, as obviously Tom's been into the pits to get his fast repairs, and we see the front of his car looking pristine again, where it was looking a bit sorry for itself the last time we saw after that incident coming out of the last turnings there, Sam.
Yeah, and this could be well, a couple of things going on. I had Broomfield and Prescott alongside, so Gartzen and Tressida. This is Powell going the long way round on Steve Burke. Now, this has been a real problematic area for him so far, and well, he's not able to overtake. Christian Engelhardt, I believe, was ahead of these drivers at one point, but Engelhardt kind of falling backwards a bit for Zero Force Racing, and he's now behind as he nearly outbreaks himself into Aaron Powell. Takes out the championship leader. Managed to use the ABS that these cars do have equipped on them to just about slow down in time. And yeah, Powell's still suffering from that damage, but at the moment would be starting up in 8th position. Come the reverse grid race, and 28 seconds off the lead are these drivers, as we catch a replay of something that just happened.
So it's Engelhardt's coming down into turn 2 again. So it's a notorious corner for, if you get that wrong. Luckily, is a bit of an auspicious rejoin there with that's Prescott in front of him, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's, you know, coming down into turn 2, you're going really fast after the Nord curve in turn 1. And if you get your braking marker slightly wrong into that turn, we see what we've exactly saw there on the screen, is that you try and turn into the corner whilst trying to brake too heavily, and you unfortunately spin out. But that's the worst place to spin out on this course, like I said before, because you lose so much time coming down this straight in the Parabolica, and it's vital that you get that corner. It's probably one of the most important corners of the course, is turn 2, to be able to get that fast exit out and get down the Parabolica, because we saw Wimbo a couple of laps ago, was we get a little bit of a love tap coming through the hairpin there from Burke. Just repaying the favour, I think, there. But yeah, so it's all about getting that, as we saw Wimbo a couple of laps ago, taking 2 cars coming down into that hairpin. So it's vital you get that fast exit out of turn 2 there, Sam.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's the most important corner on the track. A really weird corner as well. I do dislike it for the sheer fact that they say that's 3 corners. It's clearly 2 corners, but that's what Hockenheim say it is. So I guess that's what we've got to follow. But no, it's a real challenge and quite a unique one, as I haven't seen just running a little bit wide through turn 1. By the way, whilst we were showing that previous replay, that was an awesome move from Pal to move up that position. So that's why he was able to move past Steve Burke and up into 13th as Engelhardt comes into the pits. And I imagine that might be the incident limit. I am desperately looking through, and I am correct. 20 incidents in 18 minutes. Considering that race 2 is 40 minutes in length, and I'm not holding out his chances, honestly. Yeah, if that's how his first 18 minutes of race 1 have gone.
Yeah, it's so easy to get off tracks on this course, though. Certainly going around into turn 1, you go slightly wide, you get your wheel off that curb, and you get an incident point. So the guys are trying to push as much as they can. Being a 25 minutes race, you've got to be as quick as you can. And obviously losing a lot of time into turn 1, you know, it can lose a lot of time going down the straight into turn 2. So you probably find a lot of the guys will have a lot of incident points going into that corner. But like you say, it's all about management of them incident points. And if you're constantly getting it on turn 1, you've got to watch yourself. And as we saw there, unfortunately he wasn't watching his incident points, reached the limit, and has now suffered from it by having to do a drive through of it. So quite a race ending drive through for him at the moment, I think there, Sam.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. And because the fact that he's already on 20 as well, if he gets 4 more, then we'll get another drive through. So it's at 16 you get your first drive through, and then every 8 after that you get a further one. So he needs to make sure he doesn't have any more spins like the ones we saw at turn 2, and then he should be able to not drop too far off the back. As Kitzelman, well, all these guys have so many problems so far in this race. Van der Nesse was off the circuit on lap 1. He had to go very wide, I think, to avoid his own teammates, actually, in the very early stages. In fact, his teammate has chopped back. Tom Bingham not having a good race of it whatsoever, down in 26th. And now Van der Nesse is the one under pressure. He's got 2 Indy Auto Sports cars just behind him. And I think they might both be attacking fairly soon. Also, Avanzini getting particularly close to Chambers. Is he able to get past at the Mercedes arena? No, he is not, but this is the closest Avanzini has been for a while.
Yeah, you just need to stick to the a bit of a mistake there, Matt Chalmers, as well. I was explaining on the track guide, when you come out of there, that big sausage curb on the left-hand side, if you hit it, it can really unbalance your car and you can lose a lot of speed coming down there. But Avanzini didn't capitalise on that, and it's probably buying it his time. It's very hard to pass through this stadium section. You've got to be very aggressive and very brave to even attempt to try and pass through this section here. Obviously, the main parts are going down after the Nord curve and then down the Parabolica. So lost a little bit of time there. But what is Ogrenade seems to be losing a little bit of time over Lee. He was close to 3-4 seconds. He's now down to 2.5 seconds. So I wonder if a slight little mistake on one of the laps for Ogrenade has brought Lee into it, but it's still 2.5 seconds ahead of Lee in second place. It is to lose, I think, with only 4 minutes left of the race to go.
Yeah, he can kind of cruise from here and in, I think, and Ogrenade, he's got Lee, putting in some strong lap times, but the German is so quick that he's got a bit of time to spare. Kitzelman was able to pass Van der Nesse on that last one, but now we have the top 2 in the Amateur Championship battling tooth and nail. This is Van der Nesse and Dara Adjensons. Dara already a champion in the F3 series, and he is trying to do the same thing in the GT Championship, but not right now. At the moment, he is going to lose more points to Chris Van der Nesse. However, he has an excellent run. In fact, his teammate trying to break the draft there to Van der Nesse. Honestly, from that gap back in these GT cars, the tow is going to be minimal, but you can see the effort that the Indy Autosports cars are putting into to help one another. As I think was that Vinbo just passing Crouch there, just showing how slow James Crouch is with all his damage. Just ahead, Van der Nesse and Dara still battling with one another. Adriansons looks to the inside, but Oh well, Van running wide, and this is the opportunity for the Porsche car. This is not a corner that you tend to go side by side through, and maybe Dad thinking the wise option there. He's running out of time. He's got 2 more laps to get this moving.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a story of two halves, isn't it? BMW, we know it's a super quick car in the straights, and as we saw there coming down the Parabolica, even with the slipstream, is that Adgerson couldn't get quite past Chris. But obviously through this section, that's where the Indy Sport car will get up on the back of the Performance Link car and be right on the back of him. So it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse at the moment. So Chris should start pulling away down this section, going down the Parabolica, and Adgerson gets up in the stadium. So I think it's going to have to be a move made towards the stadium end for Chris, unless Chris makes a mistake. And Adgerson gets him on one of these corners. But it's certainly going to be a cat and mouse all the way to the checker flag between these two, Sam.
Yeah, so evenly matched between the two, and then suddenly shooting a long way up the track, really a long way away. Chambers and Avanzini in 3rd and 4th, and Avanzini getting even closer if that's even possible, because he was half a second back. I think he's now about 3/10 of a second back, and probably the last lap, which is coming up in just a moment, is going to be his best chance to overtake that he's had really since lap 1 of the event. Running slightly wide there, James maybe picking up a 1x, but he doesn't care at this point. As long as he keeps it under 16, he will be fine to the end. The white flag is waving, and Tobias Okrenek does start his final lap of the race. Ahead of Danny Lee, Matt Chambers and Thomas Avanzini. Just dropping back slightly in the stadium section, but I think it's mainly around the middle part of the lap, it seems, Andy, where Avanzini has the advantage.
Yeah, definitely that Porsche coming into its own in tight turn corners. The braking late that you can do on the Porsche compared to the other cars is really coming into its own. But obviously on this track, it's quite hard because in the stadium section, it's very hard to pass the cars. So although we get the cars pulling away down this side, the Porsche then closes up on the stadium section, but it's extremely hard to pass through that, which is making it very difficult for Avanzini to try and get past Chambers. So, you know, it's certainly a story of two halves, this track, as we see Drew Becker there making a little mistake coming down into hairpin, probably breaking that slightly a little bit too late going wide, but doesn't compromise his time too much. And Jensen Anderson gets obviously in front of Drew Becker and puts Drew Becker down into 7th. But a great points haul for himself over the current AM Championship, Chris Van Der Nesse in there. As we see all nearly Matty Chambers having a bit of an incident going over them sausage curbs. As you can see, the car gets very imbalanced going over them.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to hold on. No chances to overtake around this part of the circuit, as you say. But out in the lead, there was no passing Tobias Okrenek. He's going to take his first race win of the season here at Hockenheim. Okrenek wins the German Sim Racing.de. Congratulations to him. And that really was a dominant performance from pole position. The Jazz coming in behind Chambers does hold on to the podium ahead of Avanzini. Hutchinson and Becker will finish top of the amateur drivers and really not far off the drivers ahead. So a brilliant performance right there from him. Prescott and Burke for Team Lizard, despite issues I think for both of them, managing to finish in 2nd and 3rd. Might even maybe take some photos of that one, guys, because that is a very good result for those drivers. That race was a lot of fun, and there's a lot more fun on Apex Racing TV. We have broadcasts on probably about 20 times every single week. Every day of the week as well is covered on Apex Racing TV, covering a variety of cars. We've got oval racing, rallycross racing, and of course road racing in every single category on iRacing. So do make sure to give this channel a subscribe and also like this video as well, so you can catch more of them in the future. Also check out our social media pages as well on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We're constantly posting little highlights of our races and keeping you up to date with everything that is going on Apex Racing TV. This series is also sponsored by Apex Racing Academy, who are offering some super prizes to the champions, and we're going to show you a little bit of a trailer just before we go through the race 1 results to show you the services that Apex Racing Academy offer. So we'll be back with you in just a moment on Apex Racing TV. Welcome back to the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship live on Apex Racing TV. Thanks to Apex Racing Academy for sponsoring the series. 29 data packs offered by Apex Racing Academy, and in those data packs include setups, track guides, weekly group coaching sessions, and it is also integrated with VRS, so you can use the VRS telemetry system in order to improve your racing with the Apex Racing Academy setups. There's also some fantastic setup sync technology, which really does take the stress away from downloading setups. Instead of having to go to the website, downloading it, putting them into your correct file directory, you just load into iRacing and they are magically there. It's a fantastic service, makes iRacing a lot easier, and also makes you a hell of a lot faster on circuit as well. So big thanks to Apex Racing Academy for sponsoring the series, and also offering some 1-year subscriptions and 1-month subscriptions as well to the top drivers in the professional and the amateur categories, along with the overall teams championship as well. We should be able to maybe bring you through the race results for this race 1 of the evening, and it was an absolutely brilliant result in the end for Tobias Ogrenek, who managed to take his first race win of the season ahead of Daniel Lee. Matt Chambers in 3rd position. Then it was Thomas Avanzini who pushed Chambers all the way to the finish. Mark Hutchinson had a bit of a quiet race in 5th position, but he managed to beat Jensen Adjensons, who overtook amateur race winner Drew Becker on the last lap. Tom Brown surged his way through the order, only 8/10 short of those drivers. Another lap, I think he may well have got past the American ahead. Callum Gartson, he had a bit of an underrepresented race as well, but he was up in 9th in his Apex Racing League debut. Great performance there from Callum. Then it was Stephen Broomfield and Powell with a comeback. He caught a second wind near the end there to gain a few places in the closing stages. Chris Prescott and Steve Burke for Team Lizard were 2nd and 3rd out of the amateur drivers. John Tressida was in 14th place overall. Then it was Colin Mckenzie, Kevin Kitzman, Chris van der Nesse, Emil Vinbo, David Bush. Dara Atchinson's having a problem on the last lap, which we did not see. So, problems there for Dara. Then it was James Crouch, who will get reverse grid pole, and I wonder if maybe if he was goal hanging there for that one, because he was very slow near the end of that race. Then it was James Koulibaly, Jack Tingy, Simon Kress, Tom Bingham, Angel Pedrero, Christian Engelhardt. Tom Collins was in 28th. And then it was Dominic Linton, David Gary, Nicholas Matthews, I believe the only retiree, which is great work from the drivers there, especially considering that we had a few incidents on the first lap of the race. Andy, that was, pretty good fun in that race 1, but Ogrenek kind of had it all his own way. With that backing off of James Crouch in race 1, I imagine him starting in pole position, he is going to be very tricky to beat for the other drivers.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of incidents in them opening laps on that, not caused by hitting into cars, but unfortunately, taking the corners a bit too aggressively on the first lap with cold tires. But obviously, being only a 25-minute race, you need to be trying to push as much as you can. This race is completely different now. 40 minutes. They've got time to get their tires warmed up, get them race pace, and get them in. So I'm expecting this to be a bit less hectic, he says, than the first race, but certainly with hot action. But I'm going to go with Wimbo for this second one. He's up there 3rd on the grid. He showed his speed in that first race, so I think Wimbo will be possibly one of the ones to watch in this second race. I think that's my prediction anyway. So
rather long shot. Emil is a talented driver, so maybe it's not that long a shot, but yet to win a race. Our producer Mark Chance just saying us know it's Vinbo, of course, the Finnish driver, the Swedish driver, apologies, up there in 3rd position, and he is going to be very strong come this race, especially if he can get off to a good start. This series is also sponsored by Wave Italy. In fact, they're the title sponsor for this season 5 of the Apex Racing League GT Championship, and they offer some super prizes for the drivers, so huge thanks to them for that. Wave Italy providing some of the most comprehensive driver simulator coaching in the world, and design their own wheels and pedals on the specific aim of recreating the real-life driving experience. And by visiting waveitaly.com, you can have a look at their fantastic driver training base in Verona and gain some insight into the process of designing their terrific peripherals. Wave Italy are providing this season's Pro Driver Champion with a choice of the Wave Impetus Imola or Wave Impetus Monza sim pedals in a colour of their choice, whilst the Amateur Driver Champion gets a half day of coaching at the Wave Italy Professional Training Centre in Verona. Viewers can also get a 5% discount on Wave Italy products by visiting waveitaly.com and using the code APEXRACING5 at checkout. So big thanks to Wave Italy. There's some amazing prizes, and trust me, I've checked out their website. It's really interesting to see kind of what they do. If you want to feel like a real racing driver on the sim racing world, well, Wave Italy is the place to go, because that is the aim of their peripherals. They want to make you feel like you are a proper driver. As James Crouch is at the top of the grid for this race. Darragh Adjinson's in second place, and of course the 21 cars reversed from the last race. This could be an interesting one. How do you think Darragh Adjinson's is going to deal with this one? Do you think as an amateur driver you might just hold back and play it safe off the start?
Well, I mean, it's more about the pro drivers behind him. I think, as we've seen in previous races, is there's quite a lot of the AM drivers up at the front end of this grid here, Sam. So they will pay into the pro hands behind them, and it depends on how the pros tackle the AM drivers in front of them. But Darren Adjinson will have clean air, because I'm pretty sure that Crouch will get a flying start here.
Here he goes then, and he has got a flyer and some. He storms away, and he was going before the green flag was even gone there, but it's all legal. James Crouch leads the way. We've got 3 wide further back. Hopefully they all get through nice and safely there, as I think that was Bush getting a very poor run. I think maybe just sliding around because he was so slow. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a slide across, as we've got cars bouncing across the circuit. That is a proper pile up there. The driver's trying to find a way through, but there just is not a way through, as we see 9 or 10 cars with huge damage off the starts here. That is the danger here at Hockenheim. The walls are very close on the run down to turn 2, and I mean that is 15 cars I think potentially getting caught up in that, many of which will need to take a faster pair right off the bat.
Yeah, that was a horrendous start there. But like you said, Sam, it's easily done on this. This was caused by one driver coming across, hitting it. Because it's such a narrow part of the course, that with walls right on the side, is basically you pay the ping pong effect going in there. And because turn 1 is quite blind, the cars coming from behind are at full speed trying to come around that corner, and this met with a wall of cars in front of him. A lot of damaged cars are going to be out there, and there should be quite a few cars coming in to the pit lane to do some repairs. So this could play into the guys in front who managed to stay out in front of that incident, getting them put away. So I think the race is between them guys, but certainly good to see a few of the amateurs up there at the moment, and maybe be able to stick with them positions. And we might have an amateur on the podium. You never know, son.
I think that's fairly likely at this point. Maybe Prescott, Chester, Atkinson's, maybe Van der Nesse or Becker. Van der Nesse did drop a couple of places at the Mercedes grandstand on this lap. I think he nearly hit the Mercedes grandstand. I think he went very wide. As Hutchinson comes into the pits. Oh, we got a slide in the background. Oh, that's a huge hit. That's an absolutely huge hit. I think that was Nicholas Matthews who got the brunt of that. No, apologies, it was David Gary for Centurion Racing Team. That is a shame for Gary, because he'd managed to get through all of that, and then he's got a spinning car just in front of him who he could do nothing about, as James Koulibaly finding himself up in 13th place. Avanzini seemed to be one of the very few amateur drivers who managed to get through that cleanly. I say that, he's going quite slowly down the straight, so maybe he's got some damage, or maybe that's just the setup he's got on that Porsche. But he's kind of being overtaken by a couple of drivers he'd expect to be moving past. Koulibaly's going to be at the bottom of this one, and Avanzini sandwiched in the middle. Oh, contact!
Hopefully we'll have see the incident here at the fat barn. So car, obviously, right, if you look at the Porsche on the right hand side there, moves across, hits the Ford, and then that's where we get this pinball effect down the field. Unfortunately, there's cars in the middle of the track that just didn't stand a chance, and you saw there the cars coming around completely blind and not being able to avoid the cars. So fatal lap 1 incident, as can happen around here in Hockenheim. So one incident, one little effect, and you had a domino effect there, Sam, that just basically ping-ponged down the field, which affected everything from probably around about P10 all the way down to the end of the field. So they would have lost time, if not damage.
Yeah, and you know, it's just a very unfortunate circumstance because yeah, you know, two gyros go off as you say, and then you know you have a couple more, and that just continues to kind of build up on the track as that is Adjinson's past Van der Nesse. We've got a spinner just ahead. That's a long way off the circuit. Prescott off there. Was that a collision with maybe Engelhardt? Perhaps I'm not quite sure, or maybe it was a back marker potentially. Yeah, maybe it was Engelhardt. I think I got that one wrong. As Adjinson's finally up the inside of Van den Nesse. Those two batsing. Well, of course, it was Dara who was batsing Van den Nesse in race one. This time, it's Jensen who is moving up into 8th position. And yeah, Prescott's one of the losers in all of that, down to 11th position. So yeah, more chaos at that turn 4 this time.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like the biggest losers, Tobias Ogrenig. He's currently in 31st place. I think he's a lap down. He might even be out of the. Is he out of the race? I think he is out of the race. So after, is he still going? I'm not sure, but yeah, and unfortunate for him. And as we can see here, the big winners from that lap one instantly, you got Engelhardt up 15 places, Matthews up 15 places, and then you got the other end of the scale, Bush down 14 places, and then you got Tom Collins, Callum Garston, Colin Mckenzie, and Tobias Ogrenig are well out of this race now. So that lap one incident has thrown the championship wide open on both the AMs and the pros, Sam. So big mix up into the first lap on there, and yeah, big mix up into the championship for some of the contenders as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to be guessing what the championship stands will be after this round. I think the top three may stay the same, but behind that, it is anyone's guess. Some big points available. I think Avanzini with a very good chance, although Avanzini not lapping too quick at the moment, in 13th position, so maybe with a bit too much damage. Becker, the next up on Van der Nesse. Van der Nesse's kind of got this role this season where he always gets high up for the reverse grid and then just has drivers chasing him down for the rest of the race. We saw it at Red Bull Ring, we saw it at Mosport in particular. I think at Silverstone as well, he was very much doing the same act as Adjins has now passed Tressida. That's very much a move we would have expected to occur. Yeah, that BMW's got used to or needs to have good eyes in the back of his head. I imagine he's got, and yeah, kind of same thing. Is basically my point tonight because yeah, he's got a very quick
Ooh.
Becker behind. Wow, what a slide there, tank slapper there. But usually, oh no, and he's lost it again. So the tyres overheating, nearly contact as well as Prescott nips up his inside, but Van der Nesse there in a car which resembles a tank. Yeah, doing a tank slapper there.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I thought he saved it there going into the hairpin coming down into the stadium into Sax, but unfortunately, obviously, like you say, his tyres overheated going into that corner. It is a slight banked corner that, and you know, I do like me banked corners. And unfortunately, spun it out a little bit into that, but saved it quite well. Only lost one place, so still in the hunt is our Chris. So stay, but obviously his team partner. Tom Bingham, terrible round one, got hit off as we saw from a car entering after the last one, and obviously Tom Bingham got caught up in that second race in the first lap. So, you know, a disastrous day for the other half of Performance Link Esports, I think.
Yeah, and there's no amateur championship this season. They were the amateur champions though from last season, and by a decent margin, if I recall correctly. But there's not necessarily any dominant team, so I mean, really, even the amateur jars have a chance of taking home that overall championship. And of course, with yeah, Bingham and Van der Nesse really turning up to every round, that they are two of the most committed drivers to this series. That's not exactly what they need. You know, it's that kind of season where they can't make mistakes, and with no drop scores as well in the Teams Championship, that will be a problem for them. Brown just got past Gary, and now he's moving on to the next car. As you see, they're nearly a lap down already. Everyone from Hutchinson down has taken a faster pair, apart from David Bush, who I think might have half his car missing. He was right at the front of it, I think, Bush, in that lap one. incident. So I don't know how he's managed to avoid a fast pair of all people, but he is one of the very few who hasn't picked one up. Out in the lead, Crouch consistently faster. I wonder if we could get maybe the lap counter at the bottom of the lap comparison over time, because Crouch, I think, has just been edging it out ever so slightly, lap by lap, kind of 3/10 faster one lap, maybe just half a tenth faster on other laps. There you can see, yeah, proving my point very well. Yeah, just 1/10 faster each lap. So Vinbo not so far going quicker at all. That gap's kind of just gradually increasing.
Yeah, both in the same cars. So, looking like they're probably on round about the same setup. So it's all down to driver experience and driver lines through this course, which there's plenty of lines that you can take in Hockenheim that are fast lines. So it's very much down to them. But those two are well out in front. Only 1.3 seconds Wimbo behind Crouch, but Adrian's 4.2. But the top AM at the moment, which will do his championship favour in that AM championship. A great deal of a boost, considering Van der Ness is currently running down in 11th place on that. So I don't think in the scores as well, Sam. I think the drop scores haven't been applied yet. So that will obviously bring the points a little bit closer. But what it does do, it means that Dara hasn't got to the luxury of being able to miss or lose any more points in any of the rounds. So he's on that knife edge of every round now has got to be consistent to keep him up. As we're on board with Drew Becker, who is currently 4th place in the AM, who's got John Tressida in front of him from Wales, trying to get past him to get on the podium for the AMs in third place. So we'll stay on board with him for a little bit and just see how he gets that parabolic, as see this slipstream effect as it comes down here, which should be quite strong on this. Obviously we've got the Porsche and the Corvette, so we'll see how he takes the hairpin. So he's getting up onto the back end now, so it'll get that slipstream and the slingshot coming out of this, as we see here, coming down on the inside. So he'll have the inside line coming down into the hairpin, and he gets it. As long as he can get it stopped well, which he does, he'll have that position done and dusted. So there we saw the effect of the slipstream coming down the parabolica.
Yeah, and he's got damage as well, has Becker, seemingly more damage at least than Chester. So, yeah, really proving that point. Iberostar started out the season with a lot, without much downforce, but at Silverstone they actually ran a bit more downforce, it seemed, than the other cars at Red Bull Ring. They were really strong in that department, so I'm not quite sure which philosophy they would have taken tonight. Lee, meanwhile, getting past Matthew. So Lee is 2nd place out of the drivers who have come into the pits. Hutchinson is the leader, and he's about a 2.5 up the road. So you can see that 42 seconds. Maybe just keep an eye on that one. See what the gap is at the end of the race, because I mean, if it's less than 40 seconds, that indicates that Lee had the pace to win this race. I mean, it's easy to say that. Even if he hadn't have been involved in the crash, he would have still had a lot of places to make up. And of course, many of his rivals lost out arguably even more than him. At least Lee was able to get what remained of the car back to the pits, as Burke is going to lose out to Jensen Adjunsen. So this could be a great night for the Adjunsens brothers, and another great night, honestly, for Indy Autosport. They had a good result in race 1, and they are looking to back that up in race 2. Jensen's moving to 6th position here. I really don't see how Burke can win on this one, because the outside lane is really horrendous for this hairpin. It's really not where you want to be.
Yeah, certainly. If you've got that inside line, you can cover it off. But as we see there, the perfect way not to do that hairpin. Steve Burke going a little bit too deep. And sorry, Jensen Anderson going a little bit too deep into that hairpin and going out wide on the exit, which obviously gave Burke the emphasis back into 6th place at the moment. So it's going to be status quo for the rest of the lap, and then obviously going into the Nord curve, going into the open expansive, we should see another move from Adrianson on Burke in 6th place. So as you say, Sam, the Adriansons brothers doing an exceptionally good round in this second race, with his brother, the top AM at the moment, currently in 3rd place, but has got Powell all over the back of him and Kevin Kittelman not that far behind him. So he'll certainly have them guys breathing down the back of his neck, saying, let me past, I'm coming past. But at the moment, he's doing an exceptional job of keeping him at bay at the moment, Sam.
I just saw Engelhardt toe back to the pits, which is a shame, because he was actually doing all right, was Engelhardt. He hadn't needed to take a fast pair from the lap 1 mess. So I was up in 12th position, I believe. So unfortunately, dropping back there. So that promotes everyone who was behind him up one place. But yeah, shame for Christian. Not a good night for him after picking up a drive in race 1 as well. Now you get to see, kind of for the first time, what the pace difference between these cars is, and it does seem like Paz has got decent pace advantage, but certainly not the fastest C8 we've seen so far tonight. As he looks to the inside, just almost asks Dara to come past, and Dara is obliging on that one. Has to take a very awkward line, but has somehow got a decent exit. But I think Dara, who second place in the Amazon Championship, knows that the first place in the overall championship is going to get that place, and so he concedes it. And now they kind of got a decision to make. Does Dara go ahead, or does Kevin? At least from what I know of these drivers, usually it's maybe Dow with the slightly more pace, Kevin with the better consistency and less error prone. So yeah, we'll see who goes ahead there.
You'll see a little replay here of Engelhardt. What happened to him coming down? Is that a Mercedes? No, that is.
That's That's it, I think. Just
oh no, he just spins it out wide. Very strange why he had to. That was very quick. Go back to pits on that. You know, you wouldn't have thought that that would have damaged his cars, that he couldn't drive back, because you know, obviously towing back to the pits is a very costly mistake to make, because not only are you towing back to the pits, obviously you have got your fast repair, but if you haven't got that, you've got your repair on top of that, so you probably lose, I reckon, around here around about 3 minutes towing your car back to the pits. So like you say, Sam, I think that's his race done there. Going in, as we see Steve Burke making a pass on Adrianson coming down onto the parabolica, so the overspeed of the Porsche there. So a bit of a probably mistake going into turn 2 for Adrianson that basically gave Burke the emphasis going on that. So a bit of a cat and mouse game between these two, which is really great to see, you know, constantly changing places lap after lap. But Burke getting into the esports funnel here a bit, I think so.
yeah, and there was some aggressive defending from Burke heading out of turn 1, as well these guys have been side by side for half a lap here. Is Atkinson's going to keep his nose in there? Ooh, I thought he might do. But yeah, there was some flashing of the lights coming out of turn 1 because there was a bit of movement from the Team Lizard driver, and that was not, Atkinson's was not best pleased, and so getting a bit personal between those two. I wonder if they'll need to tow back to the pits if they keep up on that one. This is for the lead of the drivers who have come into the pits. Lee ahead now of Hutchinson. He's managed to close that gap very quick, actually 4 tenths faster on that last lap. And yeah, just making that move just a moment ago. So he's up into 15th. Now, it doesn't mean a whole lot, but I guess it's only one place, but I don't know, I guess it's quite satisfying. But you can see the advantage that Lee has got, so Hutchinson really not capable of challenging Lee. Both these guys with a handful of victories to their name in Apex Racing League history, Apex Racing League GT history for that matter. But it does seem like Lee's got the advantage tonight, and they've got Koulibaly just ahead, and then it's a long gap up to Avanzini, who's definitely got damage because Avanzini's been very slow in this race, and then Chambers is just beyond that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chambers has got damage as well, because he's also about a second a lap off what the front runners are doing. In fact, that is definitely damage for certain there, because Chambers hasn't got a front end of the car. That is crazy. In fact, I mean, I'm not even sure. I don't know about you, but I'm seeing cars a beige color where the wheels should be. Is that I don't know if you got on that got that on your screen as well. In fact, it's just gone back to black, to quote Amy Winehouse right there. Yeah, 13th place there for Chambers.
Yeah, I think it's the new upgraded iRace pack for the Corvette, the graininess of the wheels there, Sam. But always nice to see the Ford being represented in this championship, because I think I was flying the flag last season, not very well, admittedly, for the Ford, but good to see that 2 of the drivers and a couple of pros taken out. And I think the unfortunate passenger for that first lap was Colin Mckenzie, because it was a Ford that got ping-ponged across the track. So having only 2 of them in the race sort of narrows it down to who that could possibly be. But good to see that the Ford, which is in my opinion the best looking car from the GTEs, out on track, as we see Steve Burke here still fighting with Adrianson. I think this is going to go all the way down to the wires. Burke got a really good run out there onto the parabolica. Adrianson took that line really tight, so would have lost some speed out, and as we saw there, Burke managing to get past him down the parabolica, but that slipstream effect again will obviously bring Anderson back in, so it'll be interesting to see as he dives down the inside and roll reversal again, Sam. So every single lap as Albert Anderson takes it a little bit too wide, so went a bit hot into the hairpin there and couldn't get the car stopped in time, but certainly to and fro in between these two for 6th place in this race, Sam.
Losing each other a lot of time at this rate. Our Burke and Adjinsons, they're now 2.8 seconds behind behind Kittelman. So yeah, that is not great. Where's the other team Lizard car? Because we've got Collins out of the race. And then, apologies, Prescott in 9th. What happened to Prescott? Am I being really thick? Maybe we saw something, but Prescott was battling with Becker just a moment ago, but he's dropped down to 9th place now, and he's got a train of cars behind him.
Yeah, he's moved up 1 place in this race. One place. Drew Becker's gone up 7th. So from an AM point of view, he's been the best racer for race 1, and obviously currently in race 2 up 7 places at the moment. But Aaron Powell sort of making a move now. He's currently in 3rd place, so he's gone up 8 places, so sort of gone under the radar a little bit, I think, Sam, as Aaron. So a little bit off Wimbo at the moment, about 6 seconds off Wimbo, but you know, we've got another 21 minutes left of this race, so you know, I wouldn't count out Powell trying to get in. But Wimbo is, like you say, he's between Crouch and himself is sort of staying around that 1.5 to 2 second margin, but not making any inroad into Crouch. So Crouch doing a very fine race of keeping his lines, making sure he's consistent and trying to keep that gap that he's got currently over Wimbo at the moment, as we sort of see. So still, let's see if my prediction comes off and Wimbo gets 1st place, but we'll see.
I think that last lap may have been the first lap in the race where Vinbo was quicker, because we saw, I think, for the first 5 laps, Crouch was faster and all that. I'm not quite sure what happened on, I think, 6 and 7. But you can see since lap 8, again, kind of just the same thing, 10th each lap, and then, yeah, 3/10 faster. Now, is that an error there? Is that a rarity? Or is that a change of the tides? It is just a rarity. Uko's gone back to 1/10 again, so maybe a slight mistake there from Crouch. You can see that lap was a bit slower than some of his others, so remarkable consistency between these two. Crouch very consistent once he gets out in the lead. He kind of goes from 0 to hero sometimes. He's usually either winning or he's outside the top 10. And I mean, often race 1 winner as well. He won at Montreal, I certainly remember last season. I think he won at Red Bull Ring as well this season from pole position. So in race 1, yeah, he's doing very well, and Vinbo doing a good job at keeping up with him. This race has been great fun to watch so far. Make sure to leave a like on it if you have enjoyed it, and also subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Click on the bell button as well, so you can get notifications wherever we go live. We've got races for all time zones, so whether you're American or European, then subscribe, because we have got races for you to watch in so many different cars. GTs, we had an amazing F3 race last night. Honestly, I recommend watching it back. 3 15-minute races, photo finishes, 4 wide at Phillip Island at one point. It was absolutely mega, and there's much more racing like that all over Apex Racing TV. And check out our social media platforms as well on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, where you can see highlights of all of our races and updates for what's going on Apex Racing TV. We have got 18 minutes of this race 2 remaining.
Yeah, definitely. We've also got a new series starting on Monday, haven't we, Sam? Formula V, which is a new car to iRacing. So come and join us for that. Or I think this place is still open, I think, on that.
Free entry.
3 entry.
For the first time ever. So if you want to try an Apex Racing League series, this is the one to try. Join the Formula V Championship. Sign up details on apexracingleague.com.
There we go. Free. You can't get a better price than that, Sam, can you?
Absolutely. Well, maybe if you were paid to race in it, I'd definitely sign up for that one. But here's a replay then of what happened to Danny Lee. Oh, well, we've seen the dummy pulled by Lee a couple of times, and I love to pull off a dummy myself. But that is, Hutchinson's going to be chewing on that for days because he has absolutely done it there and is up a position. So that was a few laps ago then, but wow, that was an excellent move there from Danny.
And I'm like a kipper, as they say. So yeah, no, that was a classic. I'm here. I'm going past you, so move out of my way sort of scenario, and sowed him a dummy going up into the hairpin. Luckily, you know, he got it stopped going into the hairpin, which is really good, and kept the position. So obviously those two got quite a few battles out on track, and this certainly the Burke, Adjington and Becker obviously now joining in the fun for this battle for 6th place. Coming down to the wire, we got loads of cars joining onto the back, and like you say, Sam, with them two fighting up Burke and Adjington in the front, has brought this part of the field back together, and we've now got like 4 or 5 cars getting onto the back, and it's going to be sort of like a grandstand finish now coming into the second half of this race. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing what happens with this 6th place, and it's good to see even the teammates, and as we see Jensen going into the pits here, which is very strange for a 40-minute race. I don't think we have to have a pit stop unless he's obviously got too many incidents. We're sort of
Too many incidents, 19.
19, there we go, and that's sort of paid to his race. So not only have you got to be fast, you got to look after your incidents. So yeah, not a good one there for the great battle that was for 6th place. But I think Burke's just going to take over his mantle anyway and push Burke. He's probably going to be a bit sweaty palmed after this race, considering he's had every car behind him fighting him tooth and nail there. So
Yeah, lizards can usually deal with the heat fairly well, but I'm sure he's feeling it right now. But yeah, he's got Becker right on his tail, and then his teammate just behind that. So yeah, good day for Team Lizard. Very, very close to one another. Usually it's maybe Prescott with the qualifying pace, Burke with the race pace, and that's kind of what happened with those ones. They both had a couple of problems, but still scored decent, and a couple of top 10s would be welcome for them. Chester as well, doing really well up in 9th place. John, very much a veteran of the series, racing a couple of other series as well, the Mazda Cup and the Porsche Cup, as well as here is Chester. He's trying to hold back. Well, in fact, this is with back markers. So you can see on the timing tower, Chester's actually by himself, but this is back markers. So that is a team. So that is Collins and Linden battling behind him. Now, I'm not sure if those guys are trying to pass Chester, because often they are faster than Chester are, those two drivers. It seems like the Evo SR is in fact pulling away, but he did seem to lose a bit of time in that gaggle.
yeah, it's a problem with fighting with back markers, isn't it? Certainly if they're sort of faster or believe that they're faster than you, because obviously it can affect your race going in. So, you know, certainly in the first race, you don't see that often where you're getting lap cars, but obviously in this 40-minute race, the back markers do come into play, and it's how you carve your way through the back markers is how you get on. As we see the sort of gap between Wimbo now coming down to 1.4, I don't think it's been that low all race, so maybe Crouch had another poor lap there, and Wimbo getting on the back of him, so 1.3. Pound's not really getting any inroads into Wimbo at the moment, so yeah, it's Pound currently sat in 3rd place in sort of like no man's land, about 6 seconds behind Wimbo, but Wimbo seems to be catching Crouch ever so slightly at the moment, so be interesting to see the lap times on that, if it was like you say, Sam, 1 lap and then down, or if he is actually starting to catch him now. But yeah, so it could be a grandstand finish for 1st place between Crouch and Wimbo coming towards the tail end of this race.
Well, usually we have Dane Baird in the commentary box. I imagine he'd be absolutely unbearable at this point because he is teammates with Emil Vinbe. Wouldn't be surprised if he's watching along. Welcome, Dane, if you are listening along, maybe on replay. If Emil wins this race, I imagine Dane will be watching this back on replay. Maybe if he doesn't, he won't be. But he's got a legit chance because he was 2/100ths of a second faster. Certainly that pace advantage that Crouch had earlier on, it's at least neutralised. Now Vinbe needs to try to gain. And of course, around this circuit, the turbo air shouldn't be really any problem. And so it should just be a net advantage. And you can see the amount of cars in front of them as well. Lots of drivers taking faster pairs. They've got Pedrero, Gary and Bingham to overtake just up the road. After that, I think they've got Brown. And then maybe Bush and Matthews, I think, might be a bit of a problem by the end of the race. But man, that is, yeah, very consistent. And look at that, actually, Crouch starting to lose hundredths or tenths every single lap as well. So it has definitely changed the momentum of this race. Once again, big thanks to Wave Italy for sponsoring this broadcast and for being the title sponsor for their Season 5 of the Apex Racing League GT Championship. Wave Italy provides some of the most comprehensive driver simulation coaching in the world, and also designed their own wheels and pedals in order to recreate the real-life driving experience. As Chambers just moving past Van der Nesse. And by visiting waveitaly.com, you can have a look at their fantastic driver training base in Verona and gain some insight into the process of designing their peripherals. And Wave Italy are providing this season's Pro Driver Champion with a choice of Wave Impetus Imola or Wave Impetus Monza Sim pedals in a colour of their choice, whilst the Amateur Driver Champion gets an amazing prize. It's a half day of coaching at the Wave Italy Professional Training Centre in Verona. Viewers, you guys can also get a 5% discount on Wave Italy products by visiting waveitaly.com and using the promo code APEXRACING5 at checkout. That's with a capital A. So yeah, amazing price. Yeah, just turning up casually to Verona in Italy to have a half day of coaching. With a fair amount of money, so massive thanks to Wave Italy for finding some awesome prizes. They've also helped out on our Prototype Championship as well in Apex Racing League. So yeah, huge thanks to them for really making our leagues what they are and giving an incentive for the drivers, if they haven't already, to get some good results. Tressida, what has happened to John? Come on, John, get back on the track. This isn't... No. You had 9th place, John, come on. And he's going to let his teammate past, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, be interesting to see a replay of that, because obviously we saw the Porsche in front of him off in the same zone. Obviously some incident coming down into turn 2 and 3, and the suspect turn 4, as you would say, it's going into that corner there. Let's look at a replay of what happened coming into that as we... Oh, bit of an unfortunate spin coming out into turn 4, which collected the car behind. So John just trying to get on that power a little bit too early coming out of that corner, getting the car sideways, and unfortunately collected the car behind him that pushed him out there. So yeah, easy to do around that corner, Sam, if you try to get on that power a little bit too early. You know, certainly now as the tyres are starting to get a little bit more worn than they were at the start of the race. So but these drivers are experienced enough to know these races, to how much they can push the tyres. As we see Wimbo now right on the back of Crouch, so certainly a battle of only 0.3 coming down the Parabolica, so that slipstream now should come into effect, and we should see Wimbo take the first place, and Dane will be a happy chappy. But it's on the wrong line, he's on the outside line, so Crouch covered off that really well coming into the hairpin, but he might get the cut back here as Wimbo going into this, but it'll be on the outside again for the Mercedes corner. But it looks like he might have got this done, so it's certainly a battle through to this corner, which is a fast right-hander coming down into the Mercedes Benz. So what is Crouch going to do? He's going to tuck in behind him or try and jump up his inside. He does it, but now he's on the outside, and Wimble comes onto the inside of the turn. So backwards and forwards through the stadium part of the track there, Sam. Great bit of driving. Lucky not to catch each other coming through that Mercedes-Benz, which is quite easily to do. So Wimble at the moment takes first place, but I think Crouch will have his bit between his teeth and will come back at Wimble through this race.
Stunning move there from Wimbo. We know how quick that car is down the straights. We saw him pull off a 3-wide maneuver earlier on in the event, and so that was yeah, not totally surprising. Pal has also catched up to them guys significantly. It was a really poor lap from James Crouch on the last tour round, which was kind of gave the opportunity to Wimbo. So yeah, the possibility to come back, but with the raceability of that car's competition car, it is going to be a tricky one for Wimbo to, apologies for Crouch, to respond, as this train behind Burke is kind of a train, but we've got Becker right behind, but then the 2 cars further behind are back markers, as Van der Nesse, amateur championship leader, has had a problem, and with his Darrett Atkinson's up in 4th position, that is not what Van der Nesse needed in the slightest. Yeah, this is getting pretty messy now. 2 drivers on one lap, 2 drivers on another lap. The drivers that they are battling at the moment are Garton, Garton and Bingham. And Garton qualified in like 5th place, I think. So he feels like he can overtake here and make up the lap. But of course, Drew Becker, who's not shabby himself, doesn't want that to happen.
No, for sure. Obviously, mixing it up a bit, and obviously maybe a bit of false hope there because he obviously got at the front of that grid for the reverse grid, and obviously Becker was well placed in race one. So probably thinking in that car now, what are you actually doing? What are you going to achieve by getting in front of me? Apart from obviously affect my sixth place, because we see there Burke now starting to stretch the lead a little bit on Becker with this car in between him. So not the best move there, but Becker will probably. Try and get that place back and get on the back of Burt, but it certainly hindered his chances for a sixth place finish here coming into the last 7 minutes, 6.5 minutes of this race. So another, say, 3 or 4 laps to go in as we see the race up front with Wimbo and Crouch all over the back of Vimbo. Sorry, I keep saying Wimbo. It's Vimbo, isn't it? I do apologise.
It
All
could
over the
be
back.
Winbo tonight, though, couldn't it? Um,
There we go.
yeah, that's first Amy Winehouse, and now that is top-notch commentary. Vimbo, he's pulling away down the straights again. That car does not have a rear wing, but he is locking up on occasion. And that is just giving Crouch the slightest bit of hope. Powell now 4.8 seconds behind, but didn't gain on that last lap. Yeah, the gap seems to have come down, honestly, but no, yeah, that last lap wasn't faster, so I guess he's not gaining too much. Certainly not enough to catch by the end of the race. Danny Lee has caught the pack, so he's caught some drivers. He's got 3 drivers who could overtake it. So first up is John Chessiter. That's fairly easy for him. He's then got Jensen Adjunson, which I think will be tricky, and then he's got his teammate Matt Chambers, who of course is missing half his car, so will not be much of a threat there. So Lee on 4, probably in 9th position at the moment, but he's only got 5 minutes to go. This race 2 really flying by, and he needs to rely on his teammate to hold up Jensen's, just to make him a bit more vulnerable if he possibly can. Hutchinson also might catch by the end of the race. Hutchinson another 4 seconds down the road.
Yeah, Mike Chambers doing an excellent race because you can see his car is pretty mangled there. You know, driven most of this race after being tied up in that lap one, well, turn one incident. So since then, he's been driving around with a heavily modified Corvette car there, as we see. But what was interesting there, Sam, when we saw Wimbo and Crouch, is that it shows the differences in setup the two cars have on there. Is that Wimbo looks like he's got very little downforce, where Crouch looks like he's got a bit more, and obviously you can see on the straights that how much Wimbo can get away from Crouch, and like we were saying, the stadium section where Crouch will come into his own, there's not many passing places, so you know, maybe Wimbo's setup will be the one to win this race, because as we can see now, he's stretching his lead to 0.5, 0.6, 0.8. So I wonder if Crouch has had a bit of an issue coming out of a corner. There seems to be a big gap that's accumulated, and unfortunately, Bimbo's now getting onto back markers. So hopefully they'll get out of his way as bit of a little push along there for one of the match from Vimbo. So Crouch managed to get on the back of him, still 0.5 seconds behind Vimbo at the moment, but back markers are coming into play at the moment, Sam.
Yeah, that was Pedrero getting in the way, and now he's got Gary just ahead. Gary should make this one easy enough. Now he can let. Oh no, he's not going to let him past. So I mean, he's not obliged to, obviously, but this is really great news for Crouch, who's got an excellent run through turn 1, and if he's going to win this race, he's really got to get past wherever he can, because Vimbo's got the raceability advantage, and Gary's making a big difference in this race. There's almost contact between the two of them, and if anything, that's probably going to help the car's competition car, because it forced Crouch to turn out to the corner, and now Vimbo can get the draft from the car ahead, and if he was pulling away before, he is definitely going to be pulling away at the end of this straight. Gary not slowing down. That BMW is very quick down straights. Now he does let him past. Crouch moving past. Just needs to make sure that the BMW does get out of it. That was, I think Gary, not sure if he did get out of it. And the gap gets up to 0.8 of a second once again. So that well could have been Crouch's last remaining hope of taking the race lead back.
Yeah, look who was in that shot then. Powell only 3.6 seconds behind these two fighting it out, and if they continue to fight it out and get into back markers, then it could bring Powell in. But like you say, Sam, I think they're drastically running out of time. There's probably 1, maybe 2 laps left to race in this race. But Aaron Powell been a bit quiet. You know, he's kept under the radar really. I haven't really spoken about him much, but he's just been eating into that lead. And as long as he can get past these two back markers within quick succession, then you never know. You know, if Vimbo and Crouch continue to battle in front of them, then they're going to be offline and give Powell the opportunity to join the battle on the last race, on the last lap.
2 laps to go, and I thought maybe when we were riding on board with Crouch, I may have heard some lifting and coasting. Now, not I might be imagining things on that one, and maybe if we ride on board with him heading into the turn 6 hairpin, we might get a bit of an insight into that. But the drivers wouldn't have necessarily been predicting this because they're only going to get in the extra lap by about 20 seconds, and the pace has been very good for the front runners. So yeah, we'll listen heading into the turn 6 hairpin. Oh, wow, yeah,
He
he's run
out.
out of
He's
fuel.
out.
Yeah, well, he's not out yet, but he's using the clutch, and so Crouch has underfueled it, and, well, maybe that's the reason why he's not going as fast as he was earlier on. He lets pass his teammate Powell, and this is bad news for James Crouch, who has not got enough fuel to get to the finish, and is just going to have to be running it on the clutch in order to hang on. He will do... I'd be surprised if he finishes on the podium. Heck, I'd be surprised if he finishes in the top 10 from here.
That was a great spot. Oh, as we see there, a bit of Drew Becker giving Kittleman a little push round
Buck.
into it. Oh, Burke was it? Oh no. So Drew Becker getting 6th place by unconventional methods, I'll say, but great spot there, Sam, here in his lifting and coasting. And I was wondering what was wrong with him because he seemed to all of a sudden be about 2.5 seconds behind Vimbo. So that certainly puts Vimbo in clean air now. He can just go round, but disastrous and a schoolboy error for not having enough fuel in there, I think, Sam.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, it's marginal. The Vimbo now just crossed the line, so yeah, about 20 seconds. So Powell is going to take the last lap. Oh, what's happened here? You don't crash around that. I know it's a corner, guys, but it's basically a straight, and that is Brown with heavy damage. And yeah, that's not good for news for him. 40 minutes is up. White flag is waving, and Powell already with Adrianson's behind him. I'm surprised he didn't come into the pits, honestly, and I wonder if he's fighting a lost battle here because through that stadium section in particular, you've got a lot of stopping and starting, Andy. So if he slows for Sax, then he's going to struggle to have any fuel left to get him through the final couple of corners.
Yeah, he's probably looking at the fact that, you know, all the other drivers are quite close behind him. So, you know, what do I do? I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. You know, if I go in, I'm going to lose and probably be down to sort of
Sorry
7th
to
place.
interrupt, Andy, but this is Powell batting, so my bad. So Powell passed Crouch, and then Powell seems to have had like an issue and dropped back into the clutches Adrianson's. So Crouch moved
Wow.
back past Powell, so I don't know what happened to Powell in that last lap, but he lost 8 seconds. But I don't think it's fuel saving, it's just maybe a separate incident, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see now that he's about 14 seconds behind Vimbo. So our fellow commentator Dane will be jumping around the room with the champagne out, I think, for one of his teammates to get everything in. I'm not going to say I told you so, Sam, but I did predict this.
What a call. And for the first time in Apex Racing League GT history, in Apex Racing League history, we've got Emil Vinbo taking a race win, and it's Kairos Competitions Day. And that is a stunning race victory there for Emil Vinbo. Congratulations to him. That was a valiant drive. Behind him, Powell holds on against Adjansons. What happened to him in this closing stage, I'm not sure. Where will his teammate finish? Behind. Crouch is currently in 6th place. Has he got any fuel left though? We're waiting for him, and Prescott's going to get past him, and we're still waiting for him, and he's
Ooh,
so slow,
solid.
and he's trying to get some acceleration. The Team Lizard cars gets past. Can he hold on against Adriansons? Yes, he can by 0.3 of a second, and probably about a meter at the line. So it's a dreadful day there for James Crouch. He ended up well, we'll have to wait for the results to be fair. I can't see how far off the lead he was in the end, but he was a long way off the lead. It may have been better for him to come into the pits to take some fuel, but wow, that's a frustrating one. And usually when James Crouch gets into the lead, Andy, you don't see him again, but well, when you don't put enough fuel in the car, that's always going to happen.
Yeah, I think I don't know how he did that. Obviously, just miscalculated because it wasn't even on the last lap that he was struggling. It was the lap before. So obviously, some severe miscalculation. We see some argy bargy coming into the last corner with Chris Van Den Esse losing out to Bush in front of him on the last corner. So not a great day at the office from my teammate Chris in Performance Link Esports, and an even worse one for Tom Bingham further down the field. But you know, what a great race! What a great race!
That really was. Yeah, we've had some good meetings this season, but that is well and truly one of the best. I think Watkins Glen was extremely good, and yeah, maybe Silverstone wasn't one of the best, but that one sure was. And in the end, in race 2, it was Emil Vinbe who was able to take the race win. In fact, just a couple of more drivers to cross the line at the moment. In fact, apologies, we do have the race results already up on screen. So yeah, it is Vinbe who takes it, and Powell in second place, and a big extension to his championship lead. We will apply the drop scores because we are now halfway through the season, so you know it won't be quite as big, but man, he is looking like the big favourite heading into the second half of the season. Dar Adjensons was top of the amateur judge, and that's just what he needed for his amateur championship as well. Up there in third place overall, real impressive performance. Then it was his teammate Kevin Kitzelman, Drew Becker making a fantastic Indy Autosports day, 2-3-4 for those guys, with Becker of course winning in race 1 as well. Chris Prescott was in sixth place, beating his teammate Steve Burke. Burke with a spin at the turn 6 hairpin in the closing stages, hence why he dropped behind his teammates. James Crouch with fuel issues. He was 40 seconds off the lead. It would have been better to take a fuel stop. The amount he was trying to save, I could kind of tell that he was kind of fighting a lost battle, and well, hindsight's a wonderful thing, I guess, but he must have been probably the best part of half a lap short, which is going to lose you a lot of time, as it did for him. Jensen Adjensons finished in 9th position, and Danny Lee, after taking a faster pair in the early stages, finished in 10th. Matt Chambers was in 11th, then it was John Chester, Stephen Broomfield, Mark Hutchinson, Tom Brown, James Koulibaly, David Bush, Chris Van Den Nesse. Championship leader had a dreadful race too. Everything went wrong for him, but at least he does get some points to his name. And in 19th position was David Gary, then it was Angel Pedrero, Callum Garton, Nicholas Matthews, Tom Collins, Thomas Avanzini, Dominic Linton, Simon Kress, Tom Bingham, Colin Mckenzie, Jack Tingy, those couple of guys not scoring points, along with Christian Engelhardt, and race 1 winner Tobias Ogrenek, just showing how quickly things can change in the Apex Racing League GT Championship, the Wave Italy Apex Racing League GT Championship. We might have an opportunity to just view a couple of replays from incidents that have already happened in the race, and so we're going to find out exactly kind of what happened to Aaron Powell in those closing stages, because he got clear, of course, but then, and you know all about this, Ford's rejoining unsafely there, Andy.
Oh, that's a bit low there.
Sorry,
I think that was the Ford. That was the same Ford that was involved in the turn 1 incident there. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I do know that too well, and it's a horrible feeling. Certainly when you hit one of the front runners, and unfortunately, you know, a bit of an unsafe entry back onto the track, and nearly cost Aaron Powell the second place. But luckily, he managed to hang on to the dying deaths, which is probably only fair, to be fair, as it was nothing to do with Aaron Powell. It was just an unfortunate incident. So we can see here as well, obviously, Tobias's race start at the start, and see the carnage that we see. It'd be great if you get on board. Yeah, it'd be good if we can stay on board with him and just see from a driver's point of view the carnage that was after turn 2. So we can see him here. He was in 21st position, obviously first place reverse grid, so he would have been well in the thick of the issues, because I think it was Porsche coming around hitting the Ford, and then the Ford cannoned back onto the track, and then it was just ping pong. So we see him coming down here into turn 1, bit blind at the moment. There's a lot of tire smoke in front of him, and then all of a sudden car's just up in the air, and wow. Oh, he nearly got through there, but unfortunately got picked up by cars. I think it was trying to find a needle in a haystack, trying to get through there, Sam.
Yeah, no chance for him, and unfortunately he decided to call it a day after that. Tobias probably not thinking about the championship because even just finishing down in 20th place is a decent amount of points. Danley managed to fight back to 10th position, but Tobias, after the highs of race 1, having enough of it in race 2. So, I believe we haven't got any more interviews, any more replays to go, so we should be able to go straight to the interviews then, for this this round of the championship, and well, we've got a fairly good selection. My, who do I go for? Well, first up, I'm going to go with Emil Vinbo, who joins us up in the commentary box. Congratulations, Emil. By my reckoning, that is your first ever Apex Racing League victory.
It is correct. It's also her first podium, I think.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's 2 birds, 1 stone or something like that.
That is. Yep. That's the saying. Yep. Yeah. I mean, 15 seconds clear, but that doesn't really tell any
No.
of the story there. So you're behind James, and of course now we know that he had fuel issues. But do you think it seemed like about lap 10 of the race, you seemed to get a bit of a pace advantage on him? Do you think that was because he was having to save some fuel, or do you think maybe you were just able to save your tyres better, and that was the reason why you kind of had that good pace in the second half?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I felt like we were very even on pace. I guess the gap got up to like 2 seconds, I think. Then I got it back down to 1.5 maybe. Before he made a mistake. And yeah, I think we were very even on pace throughout the entire race. Just trading small mistakes. And yeah, then he made a small mistake in the arena section. Got me within draft, and I mean, I didn't know if I had a second chance the lap after, so just went for it. First opportunity.
It seemed from our screen that you were very quick down the straights. You pulled off an awesome 3-wide maneuver through the Parabolica in race 1. Did you feel like you had good straight line speed? Because when we were watching it, James couldn't keep up with you through Parabolica.
Yeah. He said as well towards or after the race that he had no top speed versus me, so I was running 4.5 wing. I know some others were running even less, but I assume James and I guess 4 people from USR were running a bit higher because he wasn't gaining at all in the straights.
Of course, Dane Baird, your team manager, will be delighted with this one. I'm delighted he managed to miss the commentary as well. That is absolutely superb. Maybe, Dane, don't come back. If you want your guys to do well, don't come back. You're clearly a curse on them. Yeah, what is Dane gonna buy? What's in the contract? Is it, a chocolate bar? Is it, maybe a shop at Aldi? I mean, what's the reward for that?
I'm not sure. We'll see. I don't think there are any rewards, unfortunately. I'm just happy that I didn't make any major mistakes myself, so honestly, considering the result, considering the lack of preparation, I would win for myself.
Absolutely, yeah. Nothing to do with Dane Baird. All tonight. Emil, congratulations on the race win. Who would you like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I guess Dane and everyone else at Kairos for the support. And then you guys for the broadcast, the league. And then the coaches at Apex Racing Academy for their coaching as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Emil, and yeah, get some champagne because you certainly deserve it after that performance.
Yeah, thanks. See ya.
Emil Vinbo there, your race 2 winner. For the first time, I thought he'd got a podium like Imola a couple of seasons back, but I guess that was a 4th position. But yeah, first ever podium for a quick driver, and it makes your position and even the more impressive. I think we need to you remember that one because we don't usually get stuff like that right, but you've absolutely pulled that one out the hat.
Yeah, I need to do the lottery this weekend.
Yeah. We've got time for a couple more interviews. Who would you like to have chat with?
Let's go with Drew Becker, because he seems to have an outstanding race. So let's bring in Drew. Hi, Drew. Welcome to the commentary box, mate.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting the race today.
You're more than welcome. So, obviously, you had a really good round. So, you did really well in race 1 and then a 5th position in race 2. So, a bit far off the the AM Championship, but with Chris having a pretty disastrous round, you've got to be over the moon with the results today.
Yeah, it was my first race back after missing the last 3, so I was really looking to kind of put a good effort in on this one and hopefully catch up to Chris and Dara up in P1 for amateur. But yeah, it was a crazy one. Lots going on. I think I absolutely smashed through, I think it was Colin Branton, I think his name is, at the start of race 2 and somehow managed to stay alive, but it was crazy. It was a fun one.
Yeah, you were thick in the action of that. Not many cars got through that race 2 lap after the first turn incident. It was a bit carnage to watch on the stream. How was you feeling in the cars, and how did you get through that?
I really don't know. It was, to be honest, total luck. There was nowhere for me to go when that wreck started happening. So I just kind of sat on the brakes a little bit until a gap opened, and I put my foot on the throttle, and then Callum, I think, just swerved right in front of me, and I rear-ended him. So just sheer luck, to be honest.
Yeah, but obviously you profited out of that, obviously getting 10 places up in that second place. So overall today you've had a good result, and like you say, it's a bit unfortunate that you can't be here for every round, but certainly for the rounds that you put in, you put your best foot forward, and you certainly show what you can do. So you must be happy with that.
Yeah, very, very happy. I think the team overall had a pretty good showing with three of us in the top 10 on race 2, and I can't remember where everybody was at race 1, so there's a good amount of effort put in to get that result. So I'm very happy with that.
Okay, so I think it's Monza you've got next. Are you going to be racing in that one?
I should be. We'll see. Actually, yeah. What is it, the 8th? Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be here. Well, how are you looking forward to that race?
Loving it. I love Monza, so I think we're going to do the day before the 24 Hours of Monza, the official race that iRacing is hosting, so hopefully I'm not too burnt out, but should have the car dialed in by then.
I would hope so after 24 hours. So thanks for joining us at the commentary booth, Jerry. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, mate?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the team. Kind of already did, but very good work from Dar to get the P2 or the P1 in the feature race for AM, and then Kevin for sticking with it. He almost wasn't wanting to race today, but Tom Brown found a really solid setup for him. So congrats on that. And then just good racing from everybody, at least everybody that survived the crash.
Thanks for joining us, Drew, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Monza and seeing your stern face on the webcam whilst you're racing, mate, as well.
Hoping so.
Good luck, mate.
Have a good night, guys.
Okay, that was Drew Becker there. Obviously coming P5 in race 2, so doing quite well. Unfortunately, not available for every race, which is a bit unfortunate because he's certainly got pace going around these tracks. So.
Yeah, I think he'd be fighting for the amateur championship if it weren't for those absences. But I don't know, if he strings a good run of races through, even if he does miss 3 or 4 races across the season, maybe he could feature up in the top 3 by the end of the season. We're going to have another interview, this time with Mr. Danny Lee, who joins us now. Danny, kind of maybe a little bit of a story of the season. You know, 1 step forwards, then 1 step back. However, I'm looking at the results, and honestly, I think you've scored more points than anyone else tonight with a 2nd and 10th, because, I mean, barely anyone got 2 top 10s. In fact, I think it was only yourself, and then Jensen Adjensons and Drew who managed to get 2 top 10. So, yeah, you're the highest point scorer tonight, even though taking a faster pass, so that's not too bad.
That is a bit of a surprise. It is exactly what I want to hear, I've got to be honest, because I was pinning a lot on this event. Being a break week, you get more time to practice and refine, and do that I have. It felt like I had a masterpiece artwork ready to go here, and then the event was cancelled. That's basically how I felt after having to take a fast repair on lap 1 of race 2. Not really pieced together what the heck happened there, but the setup would have been absolutely brutal in race 2. It was set up for maybe 5, 6, 7 kilometers an hour faster than anyone else, and it was still stable in the turns. So I'm really gutted not to have had a chance to put it through its paces and overtake cars fast in round 2. So just a bit of a shame, but don't give up. you don't give up until you're absolutely out of the race and your fast repair's spent. So I'm glad to hear that at least I've got some salvaged some points out of it.
We saw a brilliant dummy move on Mark Hutchinson in that race too. We've seen a lot of the dummy moves so far this season. I mean, I'm a big fan, but it's not really used that much by guys. They tend to kind of just go for the single move. But since when did you kind of use that tactic quite so much?
I absolutely love that overtake, and be honest, I'm going to clip that and send that to Mark Hutchinson straight away, because my reaction to it was joyful. I must have burned up about 5 degrees more after that. I was so excited. The dummy move is great, but it's got to be perfectly timed. And this is one reason why iRacing is good for these things. You can trust that the car is where it looks like it is on screen. You couldn't do that in ACC or anything like that. It's just the trust isn't there. So yeah, Mark's going to have to try hard to kind of get evens on me for that one.
Next up, we've got Monza, and you do like to set up the car to be fast down the straights. We saw that in the GT3 series as well. Seeing that that's already going to be low downforce, I mean, is there any kind of window to take even less drag off, or do you think everyone will be running quite similar downforce levels around that track?
I think people are going to try to run minimum trim. I'm certainly going to try, because I feel as though there was more to take out of it. It was quite stable despite the extremely low wing and fast straight line speed. So I think everybody's going to try and run it. The question is whether or not they've got the ability to make the necessary tweaks to make the car fit them. I think I'm getting the hang of it now. Setups have always been a bit of a mystery, but after chopping the setup 4, 5, 6 times to get it to fit me perfectly in this round, I'm feeling good about my chances for the remaining rounds because of that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I probably ask you week after week about the championship. I am a broken record on that, but I think after tonight you'll be... I mean, the gap, honestly, between maybe 2nd and 8th in the championship will pretty much be nothing, with the fact that we've had a couple of drivers not turn up tonight. So when you found out that, you know, Neumeier and Laubisch weren't around tonight, I mean, what was your reaction to that?
I mean, it's never the way you want to gain ground on somebody, but at the very least, it kind of softens the blow of the earlier rubbish rounds that I've had. You know, it's just an equaliser. They've probably been busy with the Spa 24 hours, and you know, when you've done a race like that, you're all spent up. So, in the standings term, yeah, it evens it up. But I'd rather beat them on track. That's the real goal, and if I do that, I'll be one happy guy.
Definitely, you certainly got the potential too for the rest of the season. Danny, congratulations on the points haul tonight. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Thanks to Pineapple Grips for allowing us to run their company sponsor. Very supportive guys, and they do a good product. You guys for the league admin and broadcast do a great job, and to the grid for mostly good racing today. Bit scrappy, but you know, we'll pick ourselves up. We're a good bunch, so thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Danny. And yeah, best of luck next time.
Cheers. Thank you.
Danny Lee there with a 2nd and a 10th. And like I said, only 3 drivers getting 2 top 10s. And he was the only one of those 3 to get a podium. So Danny with the most amount of points of anyone tonight by a decent margin as well. So really does bring himself into championship contention, albeit, of course, still a long, long way off Aaron Powell in order to catch back. In fact, he scored 1 more point, I think, than Aaron. So I said he was a decent amount ahead of Aaron, but I think it was just the 1 point. But yeah, maybe the second half of the season could go a bit better for the Pineapple Grips driver. Andy, we've spoken about it a couple of times already, but Monza is the next round of the championship. That one kicks off in 7 days' time. No break week as we had since Silverstone. That is a very visible circuit. Obviously, the drag effect is going to be smaller because everyone's running so little drag, so you're not going to have much of a slipstream on the car ahead. But it's maybe a bit of an equalizer there because, you know, you don't have to be the fastest. If you can sit in the draft of the car ahead, you can maybe offer up a surprising victory.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said at the start of this broadcast, you've had different race winners from each of the different rounds, and you've had the same again tonight. You've had Bimbo, obviously, his first win in Apex League, and you also had Ogana as the race 1 winner as well. So, you know, this season is opening up there's nobody that's taken the mantle and run away with it. It's an open field across both the AMs and the pros now, and with the points today, it's certainly going to make the last couple, the last second half of the season very interesting. And like you say, Monza is one of them tracks that you either do really well at or you fail miserably at. Certainly that first chicane is always one to sort of take, and can cause a lot of issues into that. But certainly, I'm thrilled to obviously be on this broadcast today, and I'll be sitting back with a cup of coffee, watching next Saturday when Dane comes back.
Yeah, and that's Emil will probably retire on that one in both those races when he does come back. But for now, I am sure he is delighted. Congratulations, Dane, and congratulations to Emil Vinbo as well. The next round of the championship coming up for you in 7 days' time from Monza, and that will have the exact same timings as we had tonight. So certainly recommend checking that one out. And of course, if you want to take part in the series, then go visit apexracingleague.com, where you can find sign-up details for this championship. Really, any GTE cars are open to join. We've got over 30 cars, 30 competitors, pro and AM categories, and of course reverse grids, as you saw before. So many drivers have raced in this series 5-6 seasons. They absolutely love it. So if you're tempted to give this series a go, come join us, whatever skill level you are. Totally welcome, as long as you've got a D license on iRacing. So do check out apexracingleague.com, where you can see sign up details for all of our other series as well, each one for 1 day of the week. Formula V starting tomorrow, and that is a free entry series as well, so super recommend joining that one. Then we've also got a new GT3 Pro series, 2.2k minimum I rating. For that one, that's on Tuesdays. Then we've got NASCAR on Thursdays. We've got Stadium Super Trucks on Fridays, F3 cars on Saturdays, and of course these GTE cars on Sundays. So do check out apexracingleague.com for all of that, and there's a link to our Discord as well, where you can see all the announcements for new series being announced over there as well. If you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like on it, and make sure to subscribe to Apex Racing TV as well, and so you do not miss a broadcast. And of course, check out our social media pages as well on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And also a massive thanks to Apex Racing Academy, SDK Gaming, and Virtual Racing School for sponsoring this series, offering some great prizes to the drivers and helping us out on Apex Racing TV. And also a massive thanks to Wave Italy for being the title sponsor for this season. And do check out waveitaly.com to see the services that they provide. But for now though, I have been Sam Fitzpatrick. Andy Thompson has been alongside me in the commentary box tonight. Sam Kume and Mark Chancer have been working in the production area. We are going to say goodbye for now, and we will see you back in a week's time at Monza. See you then.